And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And I'm really so happy because I discovered something new. I discovered that I can actually flash a screen first before I go online. So that was neat. Anyway, once again, good evening, everyone, and welcome back. And I sure hope that you're having a pretty comfortable Wednesday night, even though it's kind of raining outside. So I'm actually wearing sweats because I kind of feel like it's cold, kahit hindi naman masyado, pero just pretending that it's cold because it's been really warm for the past couple of days and weeks. And so once again, please post where you're watching from, or you can also say your highs and hellos so that I will know that you're there, and that also I will be able to recognize you, that you are actually on the audience, because I can only see the number of people who are watching, but I cannot see who's actually watching. So please do not hesitate to post your comments on the comment section, and I will be flashing them on the screen, and so that I will also be able to see you. All right, and again, I'm Irene. I'm a real estate broker in the Philippines. I'm a motivational writer. I'm a motivational speaker, and I'm also a writer. And nagkagulo-gulo na tuloy. And of course, I'm really happy because you have been constantly supporting my page. Thank you so much for that. I also hope that you were able to see the previous episodes that we have done for the past couple of days, for the past few days of this week. And I'm really happy that we are all we are all somehow faring okay amidst the pandemic, and also amidst the weather. I sure hope that everyone's safe. I know there's I think it's a ano ba tawag nito? It's a typhoon, right? So please stay safe, please stay warm, and don't stress yourself too much. Good evening po, sir. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you for checking in. Okay, so tonight's topic is all about Empowerment Wednesdays, and the episode for tonight will talk about setting ground rules and personal relationships. And as you know, no man is an island. It's a cliche, I know, but definitely we cannot live on our own. We should definitely have, we have to have relationships to keep us going. And that's not only about personal relationships. Of course, we have social relationships, we have business relationships, we have working relationships. So maraming klase naman ng relationships, not necessarily, intimate relationships. Okay, but for now, but for tonight we will be talking about um, some of the relationships that we have in our lives. Okay, so let me share my screen. I would like to thank our sponsors for tonight as well. Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay, so once again, the topic for tonight is setting ground rules in personal relationships. Okay, and let me thank our sponsors for tonight, Art Zap Studio. Of course, Renally, the owner of Art Zap Studio, has been our guest in previous episode. And also, I'd like to thank Lavender Owl PH, Kelsey Babywear, and Sabon Depot, Legazpi City. So if you can visit their pages and visit their websites, I'll be really happy and grateful. So thank you so much again to our sponsors for tonight. So let's start our discussion, or our conversation, by talking about by talking about this statement from Carl Gustav Jung. I hope I said that right. So according to him, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. So again, this is not only about intimate relationships or personal relationships. It's really so much about relationships in general. When we have, when we are talking to people, when we are interacting with people, we actually have, different reactions. And if that reaction is either good or bad, people's lives can actually transform. And so we will be talking about relationships for tonight. So join the conversation. Do not hesitate to share your own personal experiences about your views, or about your experiences about our topic for tonight. Okay, so let's start by telling you by talking about common misconceptions about relationships. Okay. Again, relationships in general. This is not only about intimate relationships, but relationships in general. Okay, number one, relationships will make you feel whole. Okay, relationships do not actually make us feel whole. It's really up to us how we make ourselves whole, and then that's the time we actually enter into any relationship, whether it's, whether it's a social relationship, personal relationship, or intimate relationship. You definitely have to be whole first before you even start any relationship, or before you even start building any relationship. Hello, Sir Aquino. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, next, another misconception about relationships is that relationships always make you feel loved. Okay, not all relationships will do that for you, because not all relationships are based on love. For example, working relationships. I mean, at work, we don't necessarily have to feel loved, but somehow we actually expect that people will love us. And so we tend to be disappointed when that doesn't happen, di ba? Kaya dapat isipin natin, when we are entering into any relationship, hindi naman talaga yun yung purpose ng relationship, to make us feel loved. Okay? It's really just our expectations that we want to feel loved. Okay, next is jealousy as a sign of love in relationships. Okay, this is another misconception. It's not true that when someone is jealous, it's a manifestation of love. Okay, kasi hindi lahat ng nagseselos love ang nasa isip. Minsan nagseselos sila for, for various reasons. It's not really just love in general. So, this is a common misconception about relationship. If the other person is jealous, it's a sign of love. It's not true. Next, your relationships define what kind of person you are. Okay. Again, as a person, we have so many relationships. We have working relationships, social relationships, personal relationships. Your relationships do not define what kind of person you are, because it's you can never be defined but by other people. Just because you are related to this, you're related to that, you will be defined by those relationships. So that's not true. Okay, so we're debunking that notion. Another thing is, when people are happy in their relationships, they never fight, or maybe they never have an argument. Okay, that's also not true. Even happy people obviously have to disagree at one point. Okay, even if they're happy in their relationship, people will have to disagree every now and then with each other. And that's normal. I mean, there's no such thing as a perfect relationship, like perfect, like flawless, like no arguments at all. That's not true. Okay, it's only our expectations about, because we keep on, maybe we are watching too much Disney movies. That's why our perception about relationships are actually based on this movies that we are watching, or maybe the K-drama that you're watching. So you tend to expect that your relationship will also look like that. But no relationship is ever perfect. That's not true. Okay. Another thing is, getting married make people happier. Okay. I'm also debunking that. Getting married does not make people happier like all the time, no? Hindi lahat ng kinakasal sumasaya. Okay? Yung iba kasi, syempre, may iba dyan na parang napilitan lang, or maybe out of convenience, ganyan. So, marami kasing factors why people get married. And getting married does not automatically make people happier. Okay? That's not true. Okay? Kaya maraming nasasaktan kasi iniisip natin na sumasaya tayo kapag kinasal. No, not true. Okay? Depende yan sa pinasok mong relationship. Kung pumasok kayo sa marriage because you are both happy with each other, then getting married make you happier. But that's not always the case. Okay? Hello po. Good evening, Ma'am Rowena. Thank you so much for watching. Hello, Sir Joseph. Yes, ayan na siya. Complete attendance ka na naman. Thank you, sir. Okay. Next, you always need to be in a relationship to be happy. Okay, that's also not true. Okay, it's not true, because we don't really need to be in an intimate relationship, or in whatever kind of relationship to be happy. Okay, it's really up to us to make ourselves happy. And then the only way we can also make other people happy is when we are personally happy with ourselves. 'Di ba? Sabi ko nga lagi sa mga estudyante ko, lalong-lalo na sa stress management, this is what I always say. You cannot expect someone to give something he or she doesn't have. So, in the same manner, hindi mo pwedeng ibigay kung anong wala ka. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-donate ng 1 million pesos kung wala kang 1 million pesos. Hindi ka pwedeng magmahal kung hindi mo muna mahal yung sarili mo. Hindi ka magiging masaya kung hindi ka muna masaya sa sarili mo. Hindi ka makakapagpasaya kung hindi ka muna masaya sa sarili mo. So, it's really all up to you how to be happy. You don't really have to always be in a relationship to be happy. Okay, let's not rely our happiness based on the based on the relationships that we have because we'll end up disappointed. Another thing is, okay, another misconception about relationship, your partner should always prioritize you. That's not true, okay? There are so many things that people have to prioritize. For example, depende sa circumstances yan eh. For example, alangan namang unahin yung makipag-date sa'yo kesa magtrabaho, di ba? So, syempre, there always comes a point where you have to prioritize other things aside from your partner. Okay? Kaya po tayo kumbaga, kaya po tayo nagkakaroon din minsan ng conflict kasi we have this notion that you should always prioritize me. Okay, that's not true. Because lahat tayo may kanya-kanyang priorities depende sa circumstances. But of course, what I'm saying here is circumstantial din. But in general, we should always be a part of the priority list. Hindi naman pwedeng nasa last ka ng listahan. Kumbaga, work, friends, yun yung mga nauna niya. Hindi naman pwedeng ganon. You should still be a part of the priority list. But at any given time, hindi po pwedeng ikaw palagi yung priority. So maraming nag-aaway na mga couples because of this, na parang, hindi mo na ako priority, okay? So, let's manage our expectations. We are not always the priority. Kasi lalong-lalo na kung may trabaho yan, di ba? May trabaho yung partner mo, may importante siyang lakad, may problema siya sa family, hindi naman pwedeng ikaw pa rin yung unahin niya. That's kind of selfish, right? Another misconception, there are so many misconceptions, by the way, about relationships. But I just listed down 10. Otherwise, hindi tayo matatapos mag-discuss ng misconceptions. Okay. And the 10th one on our list is we are responsible for each other's happiness. That's not true. Okay? We are not responsible for each other's happiness. Two people engaging in a relationship should both know how to make himself or herself happy. Dapat personally, marunong kayo magpasaya ng sarili ninyo. Hindi po pwede na iaasa natin sa partner natin yung kaligayahan natin. Kasi ang ending niyan, paano kung mag-break kayo or paano kung may kakaibang mangyari and then you don't end up together, talagang nagiging broken tayo because we have always relied on other people to make us happy. And also another point of view is we are also not responsible. If they're unhappy, okay, we should definitely do our best to make the other person happy. That's true. But we are not always responsible for their happiness. Kung hindi sila masaya, kahit na nagawa naman natin yung effort natin to make them happy, nasan sa tingin niyo yung problema? You really have to talk about it. Kasi again, we are not always responsible for each other's happiness. Okay? We should both be happy individuals engaging in a relationship. Hindi po pwedeng yung isa lang yung masaya, tapos yung isa parang i-encourage mong maging masaya. Dahil masaya. Dahil parang obligasyon mong pasahin siya. Parang ganon. We should be happy as an individual in that relationship. Okay? So hopefully I was able to, give some insights about the common misconceptions about relationships. And then we will move to the next topic. Tadan! May pa-animation pa ako, di ba? Okay, what are the requirements in a good relationship? I always get asked a lot about this. How do you know that you're in a good relationship? Actually, depende sa tao. So I will just share my personal perspective. What do I require? What do I require to say that I'm in a good relationship? So una doon is mutual respect. Okay, remember the word mutual. Hindi pwedeng yung isa lang yung may respeto, yung isa wala. Dapat pareho kayong may respeto sa isa't isa. Mutual respect. Next is mutual trust. Okay, hindi po pwede na yung isa lang yung may tiwala, yung isa wala. Okay? Dapat mutual trust. Pareho kayong may tiwala sa isa't isa. And this is also one of the things that I have to emphasize. I get asked about this a lot. Tama ba na 80% or 90% or merong certain percentage na ititira mo sa sarili mo pag nagtitiwala ka sa, let's say, sa partner mo, no? I always say this, I will give 100% of my trust or zero. 100 or zero lang yon. Kasi pag naglagay ako diyan ng percentage na parang meron akong percentage na pwede akong magduda, that tiny percentage can actually kill the relationship. Kasi meron kang parang margin of error, parang ganon. So I always say this, 100% trust unless I give you 100% of my trust unless you break it. Yun lang. So, pag na-break mo siya, edi zero na. Ganun yun. 100 or zero lang. But again, this is my personal perspective. It really depends on your perspective. So, I'm just sharing my own personal perspective and also based on my personal experience. Another requirement for me to be able to call this relationship a good relationship is mutual understanding. Hindi po pwedeng yung isa lang yung nakakaintindi, yung isa hindi. Dapat pareho kayong nagkakaintindihan. If not all the time, okay, kahit hindi all the time, pero at least most of the time, pareho kayong nagkakaintindihan. Kasi I find it unfair when people say na hindi niya kasi ako naiintindihan. Pero palagi ka naman yung naiintindihan, feeling mo lang hindi. So I think to be able to call a relationship a good one, dapat pareho kayong nagkakaintindihan. You don't necessarily have to accept each other's perspectives. Ulitin natin. You just have to understand. Maintindihan mo lang, hindi mo naman kailangan tanggapin. Kasi, hindi porke pumasok tayo sa relationship, pareho na tayo mag-isip. Okay? That's also not true. When we are in a relationship, that doesn't automatically mean that we think about the same thing or we automatically have the same perspective. That's not true. Kasi each person is different, especially if you're um if you're in a man-woman relationship. Men think differently, women think differently, 'di ba? So even for, of course, it's the Pride month, no? I will also have to acknowledge the LGBTQ na relationship, 'di ba? Even if it's man on man na relationship or woman on woman relationship, meron pa rin namang disagreement kahit pareho na silang babae or pareho silang lalaki. Kasi again, people will always have differences in perspectives. And that's a given. So again, for me, dapat meron kayong mutual understanding. You don't necessarily have to accept each other's perspective. Hindi mo kailangan tanggapin, pero kailangan mong maintindihan kung ano yung pinanggagalingan niya. And I think that's a very good start, especially if you are in the start of your relationship. You don't necessarily have to accept everything. Just understand first, right? O lalong-lalo na rin kapag sobrang matagal na kayong partner, mag-boyfriend, mag-girlfriend, ganyan, mag-asawa. Yan, dapat meron pa rin kayong mutual understanding. Also, for me, ang pinaka-importante naman to be able to call a relationship a good one is open communication. Okay, to be able to have respect, trust, and understanding, communication is key. You cannot possibly respect people without communicating. You cannot possibly trust people without communicating. You cannot understand people, most of all, without communicating. So you have to have an open communication. It doesn't matter if you don't agree with each other because, well, again, perspectives. We always have different perspectives. Kahit na nga magkakapatid, 'di ba? They don't think the same way all the time. Even twins, 'di ba? Hindi sila pareho mag-isip all the time. They don't even look they look exactly the same but they don't really look the same. You get what I'm saying? Meron pa rin silang pagkakaiba kahit na twins sila. Kahit na ano ba tawag doon? Identical twins, meron pa rin silang pagkakaiba. Okay? So again, please post your comments if this is resonating with you, kung nakaka-relate kayo or meron kayong comments, meron kayong gustong sabihin, feel free to post your comments. Ano ba, Sir Joseph? Bigla ako naging doktora. Parang Doctor Love na ba ako ngayon? Okay, Doctor Love. Tapos meron na rin tatawag sa akin, Dear Ate Ivorine. Okay. So anyway, feeling ko dapat yun na rin yung susunod kong episode eh, yung may tumatawag, ganyan. Tapos yung mga anonymous callers, ngayon, parang sa radyo. Okay, next. Why should we set ground rules? Okay, kasi ang topic natin for tonight is setting ground rules in relationships. Bakit nga ba natin kailangan mag-set ng ground rules para sa mga, sa mga relationships natin? Well, this is because we have to have a healthy relationship. 'Di ba mas madaling maintindihan yung laro kapag merong rules. 'Di ba parang alam mo kung paano siya magiging taya. Kapagka tinapik mo siya, siya yung taya. Eh, paano kung walang ground rules? Paano kung walang instruction kung paano ka mananalo, ganyan? You wouldn't be able to know if you won or not. So, that's also exactly the same in relationships. You should also have ground rules so that you will have a healthy relationship. Now, that's the topic for tonight. How do we really set ground rules? Okay, simulan pa-animation. Gulat ako. Nagulat ako may animation yung slide ko. Pwede. Pwede, di ba? Yung may tumatawag tapos, Dear Ate Ivorine. Pwede eh. Yun na yung gagawin natin next time. Okay. O, kaso baka dagsain yung ano ko, yung phone calls ko nito. Oh, by the way, if you are really reaching out, you can definitely send me a message on my inbox if you need some, if you need some insights, not necessarily advice, kung gusto mo lang makarinig ng ibang insights, if you are having some problems with your relationships, please feel free to get in touch with me. Again, my page is really built for people to, to have a place where they can feel safe, they can express whatever it is they want to express and not be judged by it. Okay, so feel free to post your comments, or you can also send me a message on my inbox. I will do my best to, you know to help you out with whatever insights that you need to know. Okay, how do we set ground rules for couples? Number one, you should know your non-negotiables and stick with them. Okay, I have several non-negotiables. Okay, some of them I will not say, but I'll just give an example. Ito yung isa sa mga sobrang non-negotiable ko. Okay, hindi siguro masyadong big deal, pero sa akin big deal to. Ayokong binubuksan yung phone ko ng kahit na sino. I don't want anyone to be touching my phone unless I tell them to do so. Because I will also not touch anybody's phone if they didn't tell me to do so. So this is something that I've learned from my mom. Privacy is important. Even if it's your daughter, your son, your husband, your wife, privacy is important. So dapat binibigyan natin ng privacy yung mga tao. Okay? So pero of course alam ng partner ko yung ano ba tawag nito? Yung mga code ganyan, even passwords alam. But we really have to stick with our non-negotiables. Up until this time, I'm almost nearing my 40. I still have that as my non-negotiable. No one can ever touch my phone. Not even my mom touches my phone unless I tell her. Okay, my mom doesn't answer my phone. Even if it's ringing, she will just tell me, "Your phone's ringing, you have to pick it up." Okay, if I tell her, "Ma, you can pick it up," that's the only time she will pick up the phone call. Okay, because that's one of my non-negotiables. Regardless if it's intimate relationships or personal relationships or even social relationships, that's one of my non-negotiables. So you have to ask yourself, what's your non-negotiable? Okay, I have a long list of non-negotiables. Okay, like for example, if my partner hits me, like physically hits me, that's also one of my non-negotiables. That's one of my strongest non-negotiable. So you should know that. I mean, personally, you should know what you are not tolerating. Because if you don't have a list of your non-negotiables, chances are you will just tolerate it when people do it to you. Okay? So find out what's your non-negotiable. Ask yourself tonight, ano nga ba yung non-negotiable ko? Meron ba akong listahan ng non-negotiable? So stick to that, okay? And what if you're already in a relationship and then you notice that your non-negotiables have been violated? Well, communicate with the other person. Always communication is key. I will always say that in this episode and in previous episodes and even in future episodes. Relationships are built on communication. You cannot possibly have a good relationship without good communication. Next, leave the past behind. Easier said than done, that's true. But it takes a really constant practice to leave the past behind because, this is also one of my non-negotiables, by the way. I don't want to be judged by my past. If you will use my past against me, we will never be friends because I believe that I can never change anything in the past. What has been done is already done. I cannot undo it. Okay, that's why it's called the past. You should leave it behind. Remember when you're driving a car, you have your windshield. Tama ba? Windshield, right? You have your windshield because you have to focus on what's ahead of you. And you have a tiny, tiny, but your windshield is the biggest part of your car. I mean, yeah, biggest part. And then you have your side mirror so that you can see what's behind you, and your rear view mirror are also tiny, just to just to have a glimpse of what's behind you. Remember, just a glimpse. Okay, you learn from the past. Also the same way when you're driving, you just see a glimpse of what's behind you, but you should always focus on what's in front of you, or what's currently in front of you, or what's ahead of you, because that's something that you can do something about it. But when we are talking about the past, whatever happened in the past, you can never undo it. Nobody can. So it's really useless to be talking about something in the past. Really useless. Unless you are discussing your past because you would like to learn from it, then that's a good point. But other than that, it's pretty useless to talk about the past. Learn from it, but don't dwell on it, because it's gonna, some things are meant to be in the past. Next, agree to disagree. Okay. I mentioned earlier about mutual understanding. You don't necessarily have to accept whatever your partner is talking about, or maybe whatever your partner believes in. Like, I can be in a relationship with someone who doesn't have, like, some of the perspectives that I have. It doesn't matter. I mean, we are two different people engaging in a relationship, so I don't expect people to think exactly like me. That's gonna be weird, though. Well, personally, I just kind of think it's weird, but personally, I think people have to think on their feet, and I like that. I really like that we have two different perspectives, and then we just agree to disagree. Sometimes we're both right. Sometimes maybe we're both wrong. Well, it doesn't matter, for as long as you understand. You don't necessarily have to accept. Those are two different. Those are two different actions. You can understand without accepting things, right? Okay, so next, show or express your appreciation always. Always. Ulitin natin. Always. You should always show your appreciation or express your appreciation. You don't necessarily have to have like a grand expression of appreciation. You just have to say thank you, even if it's just passing the water, passing the ketchup. You just say thank you. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? You just say thank you for every little thing or big thing being done to you. Just make it as a default that you should always show your appreciation, even if it's the tiniest favor that's being done for you. Because remember, that's an act of kindness that's being done for you. It's not something that is being done to get paid for. You don't do things because you are asking for payment. Just express that appreciation because that other person is doing it for you willingly and without hesitation. Okay, next. This is also something that I really adhere to, is to be each other's biggest fan. You don't criticize each other. Like, you can maybe, but not a lot, because you are each other's biggest fan. You should be, because you are in this together, right? And especially for married couples out there, there's a reason why the other person is called your better half, because nobody's better than the other. You get what I'm saying? He's my better half and I'm his better half. So who's the better half really? Both of us, we consider each other as better half. That puts us in an equal spot. So we have to be each other's biggest fan because we are each other's better half. Diba? You get what I'm saying? I hope I made sense of that. I really like to emphasize that part. We have to be each other's biggest fan. Kahit na maraming tao, even if there are so many people out there who are criticizing you guys, or maybe who are criticizing one of you, doesn't matter because you are each other's biggest fan, and that's the only thing that matters when you are in a relationship. You have to be each other's biggest fan. Okay? Inulit pa talaga yun, no? Okay. Ayun. Thank you, Ma'am Jess. Hi, welcome back. Okay. Next, another thing. Okay, since you are each other's better half, oh my G, do not ever criticize each other in public because you are criticizing your better half. So if someone is better than you, you're just good. 'Di ba? So don't ever criticize each other in public. Even this is also applicable for your kids, for your subordinates, for your office mates. Never criticize in public. 'Di ba sabi nga, praise in public, criticize in private. That's one of my rules for myself. Never criticize in public because it's not gonna do you any good. Putting your partner on the spot in public just just speaks so much about you than the person that you're criticizing, or that person that you're humiliating. Get what I'm saying, right? So never criticize in public. Praise in public, criticize in private. And it's not only for couples, it's actually for kids also, and for your teammates or subordinates or your colleagues. Hi sis, thank you so much for watching. Okay, another ground rule for couples. Choose not to talk when both of you are emotional. Tama ba? Yeah, choose not to talk when both of you are emotional. Um, as I repeatedly said in previous episodes, and I will say it again in here, emotions are never wrong. Emotions are what make us human. So if you say that you're angry, that's up to you. If you say that you're happy, it's up to you. If you say that you're sad, it's really up to you. But when you make an action while you are feeling that emotion, then that's what defines that's what defines your action, whether it's negative or it's positive. Okay, that's why I always say this: when you are emotional, do not talk, because the chances are you're gonna hurt each other by the words that you're gonna be using at each other. Okay, and words are so hard to what's this? Words are so hard to undo and unsay. You cannot unsay. May unsay ba? Okay, you can never take it back once you've already said your words, once you've already spat them out. Yeah, spat them out. Once you've already delivered them, you can never take them back. So no, don't talk when you are both emotional. It's hard. Yeah, it's easier said than done, but takes a lot of practice. So restraint is really something that you should really practice when you are in a relationship. I know it's kind of hard, but again, constant practice makes it easier. Okay, next is no yelling at each other. Again, easier said than done, but you really have to practice this. Focus on not yelling at each other. I'll tell you an interesting story about yelling. I've read this somewhere. Of course, I'm teaching about communication, right? I think I've also said that. I think some of you are my students here, so probably you've also been one of my students in communication class. And yelling, when you're yelling, the reason why you're yelling is because someone is far from you. You don't yell at someone who's close to you. Bakit mo sisigawan yung kaharap mo? Okay? So it's interesting because sabi nila, if you are yelling at someone that you love, it means that you have grown emotionally distant. even if you're in front of each other, even if you're like sitting beside each other, and yet you're yelling at each other, that means that you have grown emotionally distant with that person. It's not the physical distance that's being measured anymore. It's really the emotional distance. So think about it. Why are you yelling at each other? Okay? You don't have to. In fact, when we are this is also something that I will give you as a trivia. We have so many we have so many tones of voice. Tones of yeah, we have so many tones of voice. We have so many like different kinds of voices. You will know that because you've probably heard about voice over what's this? Voice artists, the one who can change their voices. But that's a talent, that's correct. But every person actually has several voices. To prove that, you can actually record yourself when you're talking to your husband, you're talking to your wife, you're talking to your boss, you're talking to your kid. You have different voices when you're talking to each person. It really depends on who you're talking to. So when you are talking to your partner, you should always make sure that you are talking to a partner. So when you say partner, you are of equal footing, right? You don't yell at each other. You don't yell at someone who you're equal with. You don't do that, right? I mean, at work, you never yell at your colleague. You can yell probably at your subordinate, but you can also not yell. You will never yell at your boss because you don't have equal footing. Okay? So your partner is supposed to be your equal. So you don't necessarily have to yell. You just have to talk. Okay? Also another thing that I've learned when I was in law school is that you don't have to raise your voice. You just have to improve your argument. Okay. So it's really about the context of what you're talking about instead of the yelling. So no yelling. Okay. I also even another thing, I even told my nieces that they can only yell if there's fire. Okay. I learned that also from one of my friends. Her kids are not allowed to yell at any given point unless there's an emergency. Okay. So no yelling. Next is acceptance is key, embrace each other's imperfections. The key thing about relationships is really just you just have to manage your expectations. Sometimes you expect too much from people, and that's the reason why we end up getting hurt because we expect that this will be done for us. This will be, the other person will give you the rain. Sorry, the other person will give you the moon and the stars, the planet, the galaxy, the universe, whatever. Okay, but when you are entering a relationship, that's not really what you're expecting, right? For me, if you ask me why am I entering a relationship, you know, um, I just want to be happy. That's why I'm entering in a relationship. I want both of us to be happy. That's just it. Okay, I will do my best to make the other person happy. He will also do his best to make me happy. But if he cannot do that, that's also okay for as long as I'm personally happy that I'm there. Like that's the reason why I choose to be in that relationship. So it really all boils down to what do you expect to have from that relationship. And also, if you're expecting to have something or to gain something from that relationship, you should also know what you're willing to give. It's a give and take. It's not a one-way thing. Like it can be unfair sometimes that sorry to my sorry to my tribe. Okay, sometimes women really expect too much from men. Okay? Okay, sorry na sa mga kabaro ko, pero sometimes, di ba, we expect too much. Kasi naman, yung mga lalaki din, kung makapag-promise, sometimes also the men tend to like promise the moon and the stars. Okay? Don't do that. Like, just be yourself. Don't put your best foot forward. Just be yourself. Because, when you're courting a woman, you tend to like make some random promises, like some random politicians. Don't do that. It's better to show who you are, what you can do, and what you want. It should be that it should so well it's supposed to be that easy, but it's not, I know. But we tend to forget our authentic self when we are courting a girl. So sorry, men tend to forget themselves when their authentic selves when they're courting a girl. So the woman now tends to expect too much when they're now in a relationship. So again, manage each other's expectation. Nobody's perfect. We have to embrace each other's imperfections. We don't want to change the other person for us. We want to we want to influence them and encourage them to become better people because of us. We don't force them to change just because, right? So next is to observe the golden rule. Okay, just in case you forget all the rules, I only have I only have to stick with the golden rule. What's the golden rule? Okay, do unto others what you want others to do unto you, right? So that's the golden rule. What you want the other person to do for you, you should be the first one to do it. If you want the other person to like cook for you should be the first person to cook for that person, right? So again, it's a give and take. It's two-way relationship. It should never be just the other person expecting too much and the other person not giving anything. All right? So observe the golden rule. When you are in a relationship, always remember that it's really so much about what you put into it, not what you get out of it. Okay? Ikaw muna magbigay bago ka humingi. Ganun talaga sa relationship. And hopefully, the other person will also feel that's the same way, right? Na mauuna siya magbigay bago siya humingi. So something like that. So I hope that made a lot of sense. All right. Dear Ate Ivory. Okay, so I hope that's clear. There are so many ground rules for couples that I'm sharing with you based on my own personal experiences, and it's not only based on intimate relationships or personal relationships. It can also be applicable to your social relationships, especially the golden rule. Okay, don't do unto others what you don't want others to do unto you, and do unto others what you want others to do unto you. But manage your expectations. Okay? So there's take it with a grain of salt as always. Okay. So of course I will be telling you this when all else seem to fail, remember why you started. There are so many relationships that, that do not really last. That's true. I mean, there's always an end when something begins, there's always an end to it. Okay, some end pretty badly, some end in a short period of time, some end down to their last breath. It's human nature. It's the cycle of life, whatever you call it. It's as it is. So when we are in a relationship, we just really have to give it our best shot. One of the things that make us regret a lot or make us feel so bad about relationships that did not really work out is the regret that we did not do our best to keep it together, and we easily gave up on each other because we shouldn't. um when I was a kid, I actually grew up looking at my grandparents, how they really managed to deal with their conflicts. They, of course, every couple has a conflict. It's really so much about how you handle it and how you are willing. Both of you should always be willing to talk about it and to fix it, because when something's broken, you try to fix it. That's how I see it when I was a kid. When something's broken, you try to fix it. Do your best. Like, you will hire an expert to fix something. If your TV is broken, you hire a TV expert. I mean, if your TV is broken, you're definitely not gonna hire an air condition guy. You're gonna hire a TV guy, right? Who will fix the TV. So that's also how I can correlate it to relationships. Who are the experts in your relationship? If you are in a relationship, there's no other person who's better at solving your problems except the two of you, because you are there, you're in that relationship, so you should do your best to fix it. You don't just quit on it. You do your best, and of course, until such time that it doesn't work out anymore, then you have to mutually agree on it. Okay, so that we don't really end up, okay, we end up hurting people. That's true. That's inevitable as well. But we soften the blow because we have mutually understand. We have mutually understood each other, and we have mutually respected each other before that happened. Okay. So when all else seemed to fail, remember why you started. Why did you really start the relationship? It's really so much about this thing called love. But if it's not about love, it can be about trust, can be about respect, it can be a lot. It can be a lot about different other different values that we have in our lives. So remember why you started. When when things get rough, you don't quit. You find out what are you have to really look at the bright side of the relationship. Okay? Kasi it's really hard. For example, kung nag-aaway kayo ganyan, alalahanin mo na lang talaga lahat ng mga magagandang bagay na ginagawa niya din para sa'yo. Para mabalanse. Because sometimes, of course, we tend to be so angry. So we tend to be very emotional and we tend to forget the other person. That other person is also not perfect, but he or she is also trying. So you have to both try to make things work. Okay, so let me also share my screen once again. This is kind of okay. And next is before I end this conversation, I'd like to share with you something that I've heard, I've learned, or I've read. I'm not sure, but you know, this is from the Bible. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1. This is from the NIV, New International Version. It says here, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. So, how do you know? How do you know if you are loving the other person in the right way? Well, I underlined the words that you have to change. So instead of love, you put your name in it. So for example, Irene is patient, Irene is kind, Irene does not envy, Irene does not boast, Irene is not proud, and so on. So that's the best measure to find out if you really love the other person. And it's not only about couples, it's also about, a good reminder about our relationships in whatever form, even if it's a friend or maybe a colleague or maybe in the family. Not only about intimate or personal relationships. It's so much about you as a person. How do you really love? So this is the best measure of love. And where else can you find it aside from the Bible, right? So always remember the definition of love and the definition of someone who loves. It's there. So hopefully I was able to share with you some insights about love. And of course, I'd like to thank all of our viewers for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. And kung nakarelate kayo dito, balikan lang ninyo to just in case na meron kayong nakakalimutan, you can definitely go back to it. And again, let me just thank our sponsors for tonight. Art Zap Studio. Okay, there you go. Art Zap Studio, thank you so much for being one of our sponsors for tonight. Lavender Owl PH, please visit their Facebook page. Kelsey Babywear, which is all about kids stuff, kids clothes, kids dresses, and they have this tiny. I think they're about to launch some new products this this June. So please also like their Facebook page, follow them, and you can definitely choose some things for your kids. And of course, Sabon Depot, Legazpi City for your um for your soap, kaya siya sabon. So for your soap needs, for your dishwashing, etc., you can definitely visit their Facebook page. That's Sabon Depot, Legazpi City. And again, Lavender Owl PH, by the way, we will be launching a product on this page, so watch out for it. We are gonna be launching. Okay, I won't get ahead of myself. I'm just so excited. Anyway, I posted a teaser last time. So I posted a selfie about what are the two things that I was wearing on that picture that I wear even when I sleep. So if you guess it correctly, we will be giving you a prize. So we will be launching those items hopefully this week if we have successful pictorial because it's raining outside. Okay, so again, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed tonight's conversation. I think I'm getting better at doing the colorful presentations. I'm so proud of myself. I'm congratulating myself tonight. Okay. We should definitely always, celebrate our tiny achievements. And of course, I'd also like to thank I'd also like to congratulate my students who recently graduated. Okay, that's FSLC 2021-01 and FOBC 2021-01. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, mga sir, ma'am. Saludo po ako sa inyong lahat. It's been an honor working with you, and it's been an honor to be a part of your journey as one of your instructors in the National Fire Training Institute. So isang masigabong palakpakan po para sa inyong lahat. Continue to be um, good public servants and continue to serve with passion and compassion. So there you go. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the week. And I hope you stay in love and you stay loved and you stay, ano ba tawag doon? And you always have love in your heart. Ayun, kalimutan ko. I hope you always have love in your heart. And just in case you forget, you can always go back to the Bible and figure things out. That's the best way. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless you all. Bye.